Hi, I'm David Dang, and we will be talking about let's get started with mobile testing. So, you've been tasked with doing mobile testing. What do you do? Where do you get started? Most people will go out there and start buying devices and start manual testing. That is not the best strategy. The best strategy is actually to take a step back and look at all the devices, right? Where is my application fit into those devices? And what are the functionality that the user is actually using. So before you jump right into testing, the first thing we want to look at is you want to look at mobile analytic. Now, what is mobile analytic? Mobile analytic is basically the study of the behavior of the user using the mobile device, as such that if you have a mobile website or a native app or a hybrid app, what are the functionality they are actually using? Most company that does mobile development will have analytic embedded into their code, and those analytic can measure or collects the data of what the actually user is doing. Let me give you a perfect example. So I was working for a e-commerce company, and we were tasked with mobile testing. And the first thing was we're like, oh, we need devices, right? We need Apple device, we need iOS device, we need Samsung device, we need HTC device. And then we're like, wait a minute, how do we know how many devices do we really need, right? What are the functionality that actually need to be tested? So what we did is we actually went to the development team and we asked them to look at some of the analytic they have in place. And what we realized was over 70% of their user was Android user, right? And 29% ish was iOS user. And then you got the half percentage that are basically Windows user. So we're like, oh man, we got to go buy a bunch of Android devices, right? As we dig a little bit further into the analytic, we realized that actually the checkout, 80% of the checkout was actually done by iOS user, and only about 19ish percent was Android. So what that tells us is that what is our main goal? If our main goal is to look at the checkout, right, where you actually the user actually buys something, right, then iOS devices are actually more important than Android devices. Now, should we still test Android device? Absolutely. But where do we want to concentrate our effort? Because as you know, with mobile testing, there's such a vast majority of different OS and devices and platform that you have to cover. So there's no way you're going to be able to cover everything. So how do you concentrate on that? And again, mobile analytic is something that you want to look at. All right, so here's an example, all right, of mobile. This is actually Google Analytic right here that show you that the percentage, okay, of visit from different devices. So as you can see here in this example, iPad and iPhone have the vast majority of the visit, and then you got Samsung, and then you also got the other Samsung in here. What this tells me is that if we are purely based on this analytic here, we should concentrate our mobile testing on iPad and iPhone, right? Now, again, taking a step further, just like the example I gave you, if we drill down to this, we realize that, wait a minute, all right, we have to concentrate not on iPhone and iPad and iPhone, but also the category within our app. So in this example here, art and entertainment, right, health and beauty should be two aspects of our application that we really need to concentrate on because that's where the vast majority of our session is going. So as you can see here, the mobile analytic tells us not only what devices that we need to concentrate on and what platform we concentrate on, but within the application itself, where the functionality we really need to look at. All right. What happened if there's no mobile analytic? Now, why would we have mobile analytic? It's a brand new app. It's a brand new website, and we have not have time to collect those analytics yet. All right. Now, again, if it's an existing app, an existing website, we have that information that we can grab from. Okay. And again, a lot of QA team doesn't know that there is so much analytic out there, both on website and on mobile. All you have to do is make sure you talk to the development team, or sometimes talk to the business group, because a lot of the business group use the analytic to make decisions on feature to put in, on enhancement, all that stuff. All right. So make sure you ask that question. Now, again, you went to the developer or you went to the business and they're like, we don't have any analytic yet. It's a brand new application. All right. It's a brand new app. All right. What should you do? Well, at that point, right, you can't rely on now on mobile analytic. What you can do is you can rely on what we call industry trend. All right. So here's an example of Android versus Apple in 2016. As you can see here, clearly Android is a lot more than iOS, right? But if you look at the smartphone category, you realize that Apple and Samsung is actually quite even. All right. Now be careful with market trend. The reason you have to be careful is I don't know if you guys recognize like Huawei, Xiaomi, right? All those. Why are those here? I mean, how many US user uses those? Not many. And the reason I want to point that out is because this analytic or this mobile trend that I'm showing you, it's because it's global. Now, if you are a global company and you have a global app, this totally applies, right? However, if you're on the US market, then you really need to look at the US market. And as you can see, the US market is quite different than global because the US market are not, the adaptation of Huawei and Xiaomi is not there yet. So you really need to look at, all right, I know I need some iOS devices and I know I need Samsung. And as you can see, Apple iPhone have a bigger market share than Samsung itself. Now, of course, the Android itself takes a bigger, but however, Apple actually have bigger than Samsung. What that tells me is that I have to balance out my portfolio of devices to make sure that I account for Apple, Samsung, and maybe even Motorola or LG. All right, because that gives me a broad enough sample of devices that I can actually work on. All right. Here is another thing that you want to look at. In addition to looking at, okay, in addition to look at just the mobile, you might also want to look at the OS distribution. All right. Now, the reason I didn't put up a iOS um, OS distribution here is because most iOS devices you have forces you to update their OS. However, with Android, it's not always the case. There is places that they might force you to upgrade, but for the most part, it's not a forced upgrade OS. So what you want to do is you want to understand, okay, where are the usage of it. Okay, so in this example here, Gingerbread is still very dominant in the Android world. Okay, so you want to make sure you focus not only on the device that you need for testing, but also on the manufacturer that you need to cover, and also the OS you need to cover. And from iOS standpoint, I typically go one major release. So for example, 10, iOS 10, and then go one back. All right. Most people when they are forced to upgrade, they usually upgrade, or some people just kind of click on the button, say don't upgrade for a while, but eventually it get annoying enough that you actually upgrade. Right. So as a recap, what should you really do? Again, don't jump into mobile automation. All right. The first thing you want to do when you get started with mobile automation is, again, part of your strategy should be looking at the analytic available. Okay. Again, if you have an existing app, okay, either a mobile website, a hybrid app, or a native app, all right, look at those analytics to determine exactly what are the device coverage you need, what are the device OS you need, and then beyond that, drill down on the analytic. Okay, go a few steps inside the analytic to see if there's any functionality that you have to cover, right, as soon as possible, because the user is heavily using those functionality or those feature base inside your app. All right, and again, if you don't have any analytic, make sure you use market trend. Market trend tells you, right? So if you were to do mobile testing, right, 4 or 5 years ago, HTC was a huge, aspect of mobile testing. But right now, Samsung took over that market, right? Again, Motorola, I can see Motorola slowly coming back and gaining market share. LG and HTC still kind of moving away from a market share standpoint. So again, you need to make sure you stay ahead of those. All right. And again, a little digging into mobile trend will save you a lot of the time in the future. Thank you so much for viewing my video blog. Talk to you next time. Thank you.